Welcome to Lifeword's Day by Day, where we are wrapping up 2021. And we're doing so by looking at a parable that Jesus told in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15. It's the story of the prodigal son. But probably the most important character in the parable of the prodigal son is not the prodigal son or even the older son. It's the father. In fact, one pastor calls this the story of the prodigal God. The word prodigal can mean wasteful and reckless, but it can also mean extravagant and lavish. And here we truly see a prodigal father who makes fresh starts possible because he is ready to forgive. The first sign that God stands ready to forgive comes in verse 20 whenever it says, "But while a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion." This tells us that God, our Father, recognizes the repentant soul and quickly embraces them. The prodigal son cannot even finish his confession before the prodigal father starts making party plans. So God stands ready to embrace you as well. Have you made a mess of 2021 as you look back over the last year or over the past 5 years, whatever it may be? Is it a string of bad choices and selfish attempts at pleasure? Listen, God stands ready to forgive and to give you a fresh start, and a party will ensue in heaven because you have come home. I want you to notice too that the Father not only stands ready to forgive the repentant prodigal son, but he also stands ready to forgive the hard-hearted and bitter older son. In verse 28, the father pleads with the older son to join them in the party that's about to take place. And he reminds the older son that all that belongs to the father is at the older son's disposal. As we think about this parable, we realize that most of Jesus' parables contain certain details that seem out of this world and unrealistic. And this is to show how God's ways are radically different and how his disciples' ways are to be radically different. These radical details in this parable all relate to the father in the story. For instance, the very fact that he agreed with the younger son's request sets this man off from most in the world. Another radical detail is the fact that he never stopped being ready to forgive his son. He never stopped watching and standing at the ready, maybe months, maybe years, always looking for this son to return home. And even more subtle to us, yet striking to the original readers of the day, is the defiance of the cultural norms for men in that day. You would never find an older man running in public. That would be undignified. And yet, the extravagance of this father's love and his readiness to forgive a repentant heart overcomes all social conventions. The Father of all creation, who sits on heaven's throne, is a prodigal father who has extravagant and lavish love for those who are repentant. He can rightly justify the wicked and forgive the failure of the wicked because of what Jesus did. God can warmly and rightly look into your eyes and pronounce your repentant and believing heart as forgiven because his son, Jesus, bore the penalty for the repentant. And he died so that we could be brought from death to life and live forever with this prodigal father. So, is he calling you home? Then arise and come to him, hating your sin, claiming Christ as your Savior from sin and Lord of your life. If you are a believer, I want to ask you as we close out this year to please pray for FILOMENO KAKILALA and his family, our missionaries in the Philippines, and to also remember the Mandarin Lifeword broadcast that's heard in China.